Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Home Tech. Jason Griffin here, so happy to have you with us. I am joined, as always, by my partner, Seth Johnson. Seth, how's it going?
Good, man. Had some extracurricular activities to take part in before we started recording tonight.
An unwanted show guest.
Right. I turned around, there was a turtle in my garage, which is
only in Florida.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I actually learned something new tonight about a turtle's defense mechanism. So.
Hey, you know what's funny is I remembered tonight about a turtle's defense mechanism.
Funny how that works.
I've got to go clean it all up after the show here.
Oh man, well, I'm glad you were able to get it out. I guess better than an alligator, I suppose.
Right. Oh yeah, that would be a lot more trouble, I think.
Yeah, in my neighborhood, I think the worst we typically deal with is maybe a stray cat, the occasional coyote.
I mean, don't you have bears or anything? I guess not in Denver.
not in Highlands Ranch. No, anyone familiar with Denver will get a laugh out of that thought. But anyways, fun show. I'm looking forward to. I think we got some good stories here to talk about. No guest on this episode, Seth. Just going to be you and me kicking around a number of news stories, and so we'll jump into those here very shortly. But before we do, as we always do, we want to send a huge thank you out to all of those of you who have supported our show by visiting our Patreon page. If you're interested in learning more about how you can support our efforts here at the Home Tech Podcast, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support. Once again, that's HomeTech.fm/support, and that's where you can learn more about our Patreon program, and that's a way that you can support our efforts here for as little as $1 a month. We've had quite a few people come on board and do that. We really appreciate it. And I always do like to mention that even just at that $1 level, we will send you an invite to our private Slack channel, The Hub, which has turned into a really great community. Have a lot of fun chatting in there and just sharing interesting stories and fun stuff around the smart home. So go check that out.
Absolutely. I'd like to echo that and thank everybody that is taking part tonight in the live show chat room. And who has contributed to our project over there at HomeTech.fm/projects. If that's not it, it's the link up at the top at HomeTech.fm. That'll say projects, and people have gone in there and shared a bunch of projects with us. And last week was the first one. Rob Lombardo, who shared with us his really cool project of lighting control and audio that he's done for his pool deck, and some of the interesting features that he had on that. If you didn't listen to that episode, I highly encourage you to go back and listen to it. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, no, it was great. And we look forward to featuring more of those very soon. So once again, if you're interested in potentially having your home technology project featured on the show, that's HomeTech.fm/projects. And that can really be anything, whether you're a professional who's working on a really big or unique project, all the way to a DIY end of the spectrum. If you're doing something yourself and want to share that, we welcome all of that. And we've got a bunch of those to work through. So if you have submitted one of those and you haven't heard from us, be patient. We are working through them. We've got them all on a queue here, and we'll be reaching out and contacting you very soon. But let's jump in here, Seth, and get started with our show. The first thing we wanted to touch on is some news we're going to touch on fairly quickly here, coming from Apple. As you may know, listening to the show, WWDC is, I believe, less than a week away. I think Monday.
Starts Monday. That's right. So coming right up, and as we've alluded to on a couple of shows here in the past few weeks, one of the big anticipations that we're all hoping for is the final lifting of the curtain on the long-awaited Siri in a can, Apple's rumored Echo competitor that everybody's been really speculating about for a while, and the rumor mill has really started to heat up, and this week was no exception. Article came from Bloomberg, who's done some great reporting on this, and it looks as though production, according to people familiar with the company, has begun on the product. And so all signs right now are pointing to an announcement at WWDC. There was a little bit of question lingering whether or not it would be actually announced at the conference. Most people seemed pretty sure that it would release at some point this year, but it does look more and more likely that it will be announced at the conference, and most likely not shipping until right around the end of the year.
Well, I'm not holding my breath. I think we've talked about
learned
this
your
before.
Lesson. Yep.
Yes. They've done this to us before, Jason.
but
numerous times.
Right. This one, there's a lot of rumors floating around that they're going to update the MacBooks too. So usually this conference is all software. It's all for developers. There's really only a couple of times where they've done hardware announcements. So not completely outside of the box of something that they would do, but it could be something they do. So
yeah, that's an interesting point.
If they do announce Siri in a can, as we lovingly call it, we'll know by next week, and we'll definitely be talking about it on the show.
I look forward to it. Finally, like you said, we've predicted it a few times and been dead wrong, but I think we're not alone in that. I think everybody's been sort of waiting in anticipation to see what Apple does in this category. We joke about it kind of needing a new name. Everybody's really calling it Echo Competitor right now, but
Kleenex box.
Yeah,
Kleenex competitor.
Exactly.
It's a tissue, I swear.
I've been racking my brain on that a little bit, and we'll continue to think about that, and hopefully come up with something. But you make an interesting point there, Seth. The fact that the developer conference is typically more software oriented, and I think this could be a like a natural exception to that, given the fact that it's this is a sort of new device type that developers really have to develop specifically towards. It's not even just about the software that's in it. It's like a whole new form factor and development paradigm. So I could see this being a natural, I guess, sort of exception to that unofficial rule, right, of developer conference really being more about software. And I would not be surprised at all at this point to see it announced.
Yeah, it would be nice. And like I said, I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm expecting that there will be HomeKit updates, and that will be nice to see what they've added in. I mean, last year there was a lot of discussion about adding like cameras and doorbells and that kind of thing in, and I don't think we've seen too many of those products hit the market. Like, I think Ring was on the list, like they had on stage, and there were a couple other ones. I don't think I've seen too many, or if any, doorbells that are compatible with HomeKit. So I'm hoping we just see more advancement and more information put into more, just a better HomeKit all around. I mean, it's pretty decent now, but anything they do to improve is that it's an improvement. Yep. So I'll be happy to see that. Siri in a can is a bonus.
Absolutely. I did not think about this ahead of time, so I'm just going to go with my gut here, Seth. I'm going to set the over-under on HomeKit discussion. The over-under on HomeKit discussion for the keynote, I'm pulling this out of thin air a little bit. I'm going to set it at 3 minutes. You taking the over or the under?
For the keynote, let's
for HomeKit specific discussion. I'm setting it at 3 minutes.
Under, for sure. Under? Yeah, absolutely. If the rumors are all true, we do get a Siri in a can. We do have new MacBook refreshes coming out. If they have worked on Siri, which they kind of have to if they're going to do a Siri in a can, they're going to spend all of their time talking about that. They're going to spend all of their time talking about voice control, and I suspect probably like AI and what's that other thing? Oh, VR.
Yep.
We've heard about that for a long time. And this is a software developers conference. Don't forget that the gaming software, like if you go to the App Store, it's all games. That's a major part of what they do. So I'm betting some VR discussion happens too.
Okay, so you're taking the under.
Definitely.
I think that I'm gonna have to be boring here. I'm sorry. I don't want to be a contrarian just for the sake of it. I'm with you. I'm taking the under on it.
All right.
I think the one place where we're going to hit a gray area potentially is, if we do get Siri in a can, there will surely be some HomeKit discussion around that as sort of a subset. So as far as a standalone conversation, maybe starting and stopping my stopwatch a couple of times, but it'll be interesting to see. I do agree. I think we're gonna see some updates about HomeKit. Really hoping for Siri in a can, as we've talked about. I did see what I thought was kind of an interesting article in Digital Trends this week about Apple reportedly working on a dedicated AI processor. So we're not going to jump in and talk about that in too much detail, but not a big surprise to hear that Apple is looking harder at how they're going to handle AI. I mean, it is the big story in tech right now for obvious reasons. Everybody's looking to move in that direction, and so it'll be interesting to see if they do talk about that in particular. But yes, I do think that the big story will be, as always, or as we're hoping for at least, will be Siri in a can, and then of course all the other stuff, like you said, that's not necessarily directly related to home technology, but Apple's got a big footprint there.
Kind of their main business.
It's a little kind of important.
the
sort of
$1
boring
billion company that they built on an iPhone. And oh yeah, but HomeKit, that's important.
Yeah. Talk more HomeKit.
Yeah,
it's like
that's what we'd be doing. We'd be
1,000th%. Yeah.
We'd be in the back crowd, just like more HomeKit.
HomeKit. You could make signs.
Oh, I could just see it happening. Oh man. All right. Well, I will be pleasantly surprised if the entire conversation with Siri in a can and HomeKit is over
combined.
3 minutes. Yeah, combined. Yeah.
Yep.
In total, I think it's going to be a stretch to get there. But especially with all the rumors, I think it's going to be a stretch. But I'm betting like some of the later classes, like they'll have full classes on HomeKit and Siri. I'm betting there'll be a lot of discussion there where we'll get down into the nitty gritty details of how this is all going to work.
Yep. All right. Well, let's shift gears here. This is a quick follow-up story we wanted to throw in here because we did allude to this last week and talked about it a little bit. A new Nest Cam that was making the rounds in the tech press, and there was some discussion about new features and how it could sort of do 4K. It was kind of being touted as a 4K camera, but it was really just a feature where it was doing 1080, but would allow you to zoom in on certain areas of the screen and sort of ramp up that resolution to give you a higher quality image, which I think, Seth, you and I both agreed was kind of a neat feature and pretty cool. Well, it does look like more information is getting out there about this. An article from The Verge is what we've got linked here. And it looks like it's called the Cam IQ, the Nest Cam IQ. It's going to retail for $299. Looks like $498 for a pair, so a little bit of a price break there if you buy two. And we'll begin shipping by the end of June, so just about a month from now. So not too far out. So we've got a new camera from Nest, but nothing else really. No new product categories still, but it's at least good to see Nest doing something.
Yep, and you still have to plug it in with that long USB cable thing. So I don't know.
Neither of us are surprised about that, though.
Yeah, but it's not an exciting product for me. I mean, I could see like Arlo doing almost the same thing. I could see Ring doing almost the same thing, and not putting an extension cable on the back that you have to reroute. Actually, TJ was talking about this on the Slack channel or maybe on his Twitter feed, where he was saying, the Nest Cams are great, but if you have to replace one of the outdoor ones, you can't just you have to rerun the entire wire because the wire is attached to the outdoor camera. So think about if you had snaked that through an attic or something like that.
Wow.
Replacing the camera, you're going to have to rerun the entire cable. It's just crazy.
That was one of my gripes about it was, okay, if you're not going to do PoE, fine, I get it. But at least give us like a Phoenix connector or something that we can, because that's not that difficult. I think most people can do that. If the wires already come you could even have the wires already come pre-stripped and you just tell people they need a little screwdriver or even ship like a cheap little flathead with it or something. Give us something to make wiring this thing easier if we want to put a little bit of a professional touch on there. I didn't even think about that, the fact that it's attached. Yeah, that'd be a real bummer if you had gone through a lot of work to retrofit that wire and then have to replace it.
Yep. And this Cam IQ is indoor only. It doesn't look like it has an outdoor version. So that's less of, this is kind of one of those coffee table things you set off on the side and hopefully no one notices. The design of this is really nice and really clean. I think I don't have any problem at all with it. It looks great. But I'm hoping that they put a little more effort into the outdoor versions. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's certainly not a product that if you already own, like I own a couple drop cams from a while back, and this isn't the type of product that I would
run out and buy to replace something I already have, right? But this, this could be a nice one for somebody who's just getting into the market. So it does have some cool features on it.
Yep, I'd say even at that price point, the features are pretty compelling. And having the larger sensor where you can get more data image into the camera, and then it can kind of decide what it wants to see if somebody's moving around. Smart. Yep. I really like it. I think it's going to be copied for sure.
Well, let's move on from there. Greg was in the chat room when we were talking about Apple, saying he wanted a new phone. Well, Greg, maybe you want to look at the Essential phone. I'm not sure. I don't know that Seth is a big fan, but Andy Rubin, the inventor of Android, is back in the news. We're not going to talk too much about the phone, but he's, really, there's two products to this. The company's called Essential. They've got the Essential phone, which is really, I think, from what I read, designed to be sort of a premium. Seth, you jokingly called it the anti-iPhone. So again, we're not going to dive into that, but what's interesting for us here, Seth, is the fact that they have the Essential Home. And this is another one that I laughed a little bit when I saw the headlines, because I think I saw at least 2 or 3 headlines that referred to it as an Echo competitor, which just completely reinforces my theory that we need a better name for this category. But until we come up with one, I'm gonna stick with that, and we'll call it an Echo competitor. So some interesting aspects to this story, and we'll talk about them a little bit here. But they're really building this thing differently, I would say, than any other approach. I know one of the things they talked about in a lot of the stories was that it's going to do a lot more of the processing locally. So they're touting it as a more of, if you're concerned about privacy or data, that this may be a better option. But generally has a very similar feature set to something like an Echo or a Google Home.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you read, and I didn't actually read through any of the articles. I went to Cody, the code man, sent this over to me earlier, and I said, "Oh, that looks cute." And he's like, "I was hoping to get a bell rung, so okay, there we go.
There you go, Cody.
We've got a new hub to talk about here."
I totally buried the lead there, didn't I?
You did. So here's a new hub for us to talk about, and I don't know, man. Everything I read on it was basically like flighty. Like there was no lockdown features of what this thing actually did. Like they talked about it being able to control most everything in your home, and without listing specifics. They just kind of threw things out there and said, "Oh, it can do this, it can do this."
Yeah.
But really, they didn't say it can control your Sonos. They didn't say it could turn on and off your lights. Forget what lights, they didn't say how it was going to control everything. They said everything. They wanted to have everything running on the hub and have it secure, because they didn't want to talk to any cloud APIs. Well, as we talked about last week, a lot of these companies use cloud APIs, and they say it's a security issue. I don't think it's a security issue. It's more of a quality issue and latency issue, but that's besides the point. So security can be done right on the cloud. So I don't get that. There's a lot about this product I just don't get. And I guess we're going to have to see it to really believe in what it can do. I think they have a team in place. They look like they have a team in place and a company in place that can really pull this off. But I'm also questioning, it's 2017. This product should have come out maybe 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and we would be talking about it a lot more. Maybe 2 years ago.
I think a lot of the conversation has really stemmed from a report in Wired. So a lot of the stories that I read linked back to that, where they did a big feature piece, really nicely written about the company, and they did talk a lot about the phone and what makes that unique. So if you are interested in learning a little more about that, we'll link to it. HomeTech.fm/164 is where you can find the show notes for this one. But I think really the main, well, I don't think, I know, I read the article. The main gist of it was really, again, about the company, and they talked a lot about the phone. And then the Essential Home was, I don't want to say just a tack on to the article, because they did spend quite a bit of their word count on it, but it was, I think, less of the spotlight of the story, but it did get picked up because it's interesting. And so a lot of the other
outlets were writing about it, and like The Verge, for example, I've got their story here right in front of me, and a number of times in the article, I think they were being a little bit, tongue in cheek, but sort of describing features and then saying, although exactly how they're going to do this is unclear or doesn't really say how. So there is a lot of, I think, ambiguity still surrounding this product. It does seem like it's pretty early. Like I haven't seen any actual product images. It's all sort of 3D renders. Although the Wired article did say that it's supposed to ship later this summer. And gosh, we're at the end of May here. It'll be June by the time this episode goes live. So that's not a very long time off. And so it'll be interesting to see if they can actually stick to that. It's touting that they've built a system. Going to quote here for just a second. To bring order to the endless standards, protocols, and systems wrought by the Internet of Things. I know when I read that, we've all sort of heard that before, and it goes back to that old meme or comic.
XKCD comic, yep.
That's circulated around the internet. Like, how do we get rid of all these protocols? Develop another one. Great. Now we have, 14, and we had 13 before. But who knows? There's some people with some credentials here at this company. Obviously, you've done some big things, and like you said, if any team can pull it off, it appears that they can. They're touting SmartThings, HomeKit, Nest integration out of the box. I do see Alexa, Siri, Google Assistant. So like a lot of integrations here. They're really touting an open ecosystem, one that really puts the user in control. I did think there was an interesting quote here. Seth, you had linked to the website, and so I went and checked that out, and one of the blog posts said the key to ambient OS, which is the operating system that this runs off of, is the belief that people should be in control. To this end, it does not try to make your home smart by anticipating what you need. Instead, as it learns from people, it can suggest certain behaviors, but in the end, people decide whether or not to use them. And I thought that was really interesting because that gets to the heart of that whole automation versus control conversation that we've had a bunch of times, and it seems like everybody's really pushing towards automation and touting how smart their devices are, that it can just do things without any input from you, and they're actually taking a very opposite approach to that, which I found interesting.
Yeah, but that conversation is still all high level. Like if you go look at all those blog posts they have on there, none of them tell you how. Like They're not explaining how this product works. For something that's supposed to be released at the end of the summer, man, they have a long way to go. Before, if this thing isn't easy to set up and it just magically works, I mean, how are you? People are going to be very confused by that. Like if they do what they're talking about, and they're able to on such actually a small team. I'll go ahead and put it out there. This team is very small that they have on their website. They're all extremely experienced, but they're still a small team, and I don't see, anybody. What they're trying to do is extremely hard, and what they're talking about doing is extremely hard. And they want to put this AI component on top of it, where it's kind of predicting what you want to do and saying, "Hey, do you want to do this?" I don't know. I will be interested to see where this is. Maybe we should put this on the calendar and come back to it after. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like this is like one of those things that they threw out there. Let's get it out there before Siri in a can drops. Because after that, I mean, discussion's over for the rest of the summer. Everybody's going to be talking about Siri in a can.
Yeah. Well, it worked. We talked about it.
Yep. Apple PR knows what they're doing, man.
Yeah. So no, I don't disagree with anything you said. I just thought that quote was interesting from a philosophical standpoint. That's how they're thinking about the product, and is very, I think, contrary to what we see in a lot of sort of marketing and PR pieces when people talk about the smart home. So yeah, we'll keep an eye out and see if this thing can actually make it to market and do so on time. And we'll report back as we hear more. But let's jump in here to sort of our last general category that we're going to talk about tonight. We've got a few over-the-top streaming video stories we wanted to touch on. Seth, you did a great job of finding this article. I'm not sure where you found it, but there's a really great over-the-top link. Now, let me click on this because it's actually, I think, like it's a website. So way over the top. Isn't
that cool?
And it is a really, really great if you're evaluating different over-the-top streaming options like Hulu Live TV, YouTube TV, Sling TV, DirecTV Now, PlayStation View. Those are the 5 they've got on here right now. And it's a really nice visual layout with all of the channels going down the very far left column vertically, and then from left to right, you've got the different services, a little yes, no, whether or not they have them, also including, I think, some little price bubbles that give you an indication maybe if there's an extra charge or something associated with that. So I got to dive in and digest this a little bit more. Like I said, Seth, you turned this one up, and I don't know where you found it, but it's a great link.
Yeah, what I thought was nice is they include like every package that would include specific channels, and the way I like how this works is it's got the little pick channels button up at the top, and you can go through and pick the channels. There's 169 channels. You can go through and pick. I only want to watch Showtime, PBS, Nickelodeon, that kind of thing. You can select those couple channels, and then here's BBC America. I know that one's kind of hard to get. I don't care about the Weather Channel, but I do want. What is the football thing you watch? They probably don't have that on here.
I'm sure they don't.
Yeah, that one's a little tough to get. So, I guess here's a bunch of Fox Sports 1 and 2. Let's just go put those on there. And then I hit done, and it tells me which services, Hulu, YouTube, Sling TV, DirecTV Now, and PlayStation View, which services offer those and how much they'll cost. And it looks like YouTube TV handles all 3 of those channels if that's all I wanted. So I think this is really good. It's one of those somebody did a lot of work on it, and I think they should get some credit for it. I don't know who it is. I saw this on Twitter, and I thought this was a great idea.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I'm a little bit confused by it still looking at it. Like AMC, for example, has under Hulu, it's got no. Under YouTube TV, it's got yes. So those are pretty obvious. But then you get to Sling TV, and it's got 2 little bubbles instead of just 1. And they don't say no or yes. They say $20 and $25. And then
those are the 2 packages that are applicable to that one channel. So if you look at DirecTV Now, it may have 3 or 4 packages. It's basically included in all the packages of DirecTV, but
I got it.
You may have more than one channel. Like here, if I'm looking at BBC and those 2 Fox Sports channels, Sling TV has all of those available, but only all of them on the $25 channel. Only the $20 channel or package offers BBC America. So you can kind of filter out which package you're going to end up with based on what channels you want to watch, which I think that's great. It's really, really helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess it's because some of these services have multiple tiers, I suppose, and others maybe don't, or something along those lines. So I get it. It's either a no or a yes, or if it's a service that has multiple tiers, it shows you the different price points at which you can get that service. I'm definitely going to use
this. The YouTube price and the Hulu price on there, and that would.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would have been much more clear. So, but either way, it's a great resource. I know I've said it the past few weeks. I'm sort of counting down here to the end of my DirecTV subscription, and I think we're probably going to make the leap. I don't know how big of a rush we are in to do it, just given bandwidth and trying to figure all that out. But this is a great resource, so I definitely would encourage, again, anybody listening who's trying to evaluate different over-the-top streaming services. This is, I think, the best tool that I've seen yet by far.
Yep, and there's even another bubble on here that I found. It's called add-on. So like Showtime, you can add that on to a couple of these. But you can't add it on to DirecTV Now. So, man, this is a very confusing market. This definitely will help you simplify it.
Yep, without question. Well, speaking of over the top, looks like Tableau has a next generation DVR here. We had Tableau on the podcast. I just looked back in March of 2015, so it's been hard to believe, but it's been a couple of years. And it's a pretty cool product if you're not familiar with it. Go ahead and click through and read this story. But it looks like they are doubling down on their Tableau here. This story is from That's Not Funny, who does a great job reporting on this specific segment of the home technology space. Dual over the air OTA DVR, $250 looks like the price point on this thing. And if I recall correctly, the way this the way this deal works is it's got the over-the-air antenna built into it, and then you plug it into the network, and it doesn't have, I think they call it like a headless unit, meaning it doesn't have like an HDMI output. It actually just goes onto the network, and then you use like an Apple TV or whatever streaming devices they're compatible with, plus the Tableau app to be able to stream shows that are recorded on the built-in DVR as well as live over-the-air content.
Yep. And one of the really things that they've done that is extremely smart on this one is they've integrated 64 gigabytes of flash storage. Who cares what that means? But what it does mean at the end of the day is that you get 40 hours of recording without adding on an external hard drive, which is huge because that's kind of like one of the things that held me back from actually getting a Tableau was the fact that I would have to add in a hard drive of some type onto the Tableau. It's just more expense. So at $250, you get a full DVR right out of the box without having to add hard drives on and mess with all that. It just comes that way. So, and that's on the heels of TiVo giving up on their similarly
designed
product.
Yep.
Yeah. What they were trying to do with TiVo is they weren't putting capacity inside their, what do they call it, the Maverick, but they were trying to do like a cloud recording, if I remember correctly. But according to Dave Zatz as well, it looks like that they are ending that program, which is very interesting. I wonder where TiVo is headed. If this, when we talked about it, we were like, oh, this looks like the future. This is what all streaming products should be. And, maybe one day it'll end up right in your TV and you won't have to worry about having a dedicated box for it. But man,
right.
I got to worry about TiVo now. I mean, it just seems like a rudderless company. Unfortunately,
yeah.
Once was a extremely, just awesome company. Now, man, I don't know. I just saw the other day that they had finally made the update where all their menus are in HD now. It's 2017.
In case you didn't know, 2017.
Yeah. Greg
man.
in the chat is asking, are hard drives expensive down there? No, they're not expensive. It's just something extra that you have to buy over over the $250 or $200 price point of the Tableau. So that's why I just never did it. It just was like, oh, there's more to get, more to add on to it. It's really not a $250 product or a $200 product. It's a $250 plus a $50 or $75 hard drive.
Yeah.
So,
and for a lot of consumers too, that extra layer of complexity, as simple as it sounds to people in our audience, that could be a bit of a deal breaker for some people, I would think.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, yeah, this is I love these sort of products. We as my wife and I begin to talk more seriously about cutting the cord, it's a conversation that we're having. Is a lot of the shows that we do watch, quite honestly, are on the local channels, and the fact that you can get those now in HD, you've been able to obviously do that for years. When they made the change over to digital, really doesn't make sense to pay for those anymore. And so if we get if we went with something like a Tableau, or I know there's other solutions out there that, Channel Master, I think has a different approach, but same sort of idea, I believe. I think there's a bunch of them out there. Point being, the ability to get those local channels for free is great with an antenna, but what most people want now is, of course, the ability to time shift and use a DVR. And so these solutions are great for that, and they give you kind of the best of both worlds.
I think earlier in the hub, we were talking about Synology. I've been seriously contemplating getting that for, just backup around the house. But my wife came to me today and she's like, hey, when are we going to get that, thing you were talking about where I could store all the movies on it and I could watch them anytime I wanted. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, this could be an easy win, right? Like, oh, yes. Well, I'm just going to go order it on Amazon right now.
Actually, we're just going to do that right now.
It's funny you ask.
Strike while the iron's hot, my friend.
Yep, exactly. It's a project.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. Well, that's really it for our news stories here. We did want to mention for the Home Tech pros in our audience, looks like CDR registration 2017
has opened. I am looking forward to it as always. Be down in San Diego this year, so really looking forward to that. Dallas the last couple of years, and no knock on Dallas, but it's not San Diego. I'll say that.
Yeah, Dallas is not a lot of things.
San Diego's one of them.
Yes, and San Diego is definitely one of them. I'll be excited to go this year. I've never been out to the other west coast of the U.S. and I'll be excited to get out there. I don't know, San Diego on the beach. It sounds like it is.
Oh, it's great. It's a great place. I lived in Los Angeles for a number of years and had a few opportunities to go down to San Diego, and it's a really beautiful place. So I look forward to it. September 5th through the 9th. Greg Scott in the chat room. Greg is a super, super loyal fan here, so I want to give him a plug. He is teaching a course, The Art of a Takeover Job. So again, if you are a home technology professional, this would be some really, I think, valuable information. Those takeover jobs always scared the crap out of me when I was on the install side of the business, and it's one of those things that you don't want to walk away from the money and walk away from a project, but you've got to be really careful navigating those takeover jobs because you just don't know where the bodies are buried. And so I think that'll be a cool course. I don't know if I'll be able to attend, but hopefully, Greg, you and I can catch up out there, and you can give me the Cliff Notes version of the course. So we'll look forward to that.
Yeah. I wonder if we joked about this before, but like coming up with some really bad CEDIA classes, like The Art of the Takeover Job is one thing, but like burning down the takeover job, or the takeover job that lasts forever every weekend. Yeah. I wonder. I could definitely see those be fun non-CEDIA classes.
Yeah. Is there a section in Greg's course involving hand grenades or blowtorches?
Right. Or frustrated calls on Friday night. Why aren't my cameras working? Oh, I didn't install them. I don't know. Yep.
Anyways,
very good. Well, Greg, we'll definitely keep an eye out for that one. And if you are attending CEDIA, keep an eye out and get in there before the class fills up, because I know they fill up fast.
Yep, definitely do. All right, Seth. Well, we will wind it down here, and we'll look forward to reconnecting again with you next week.
Excellent. Well, I'll talk to you next week, Jason.
All right. Thanks, Seth.